out the signals for the Baltimore Colts. Unitas gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions. Amici scores.
It's amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football. California won the big game. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
This is Phil Steele.
This is Mike Burnham.
This is Wes Durham.
This is Mike Ashley.
Hi, this is Chuck Foreman, number 44 of the Minnesota Vikings.
Woo, mercy, this is handsome Jimmy Vane, the Boogie Woogie Man.
This is Coach Fry with Virginia Tech Football, and you are listening to Big Dog Sports Talk.
Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to roll? Okay, let's do it.
You're in the doghouse with Rick Watson on Big Dog Sports Talk, presented by Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment. Join us in the Family Fencing Studios and chime in on the McClellan Chiropractic chat line. He's keeping cool with help from Little River Heating and Air, but this show is straight fire. And now, the big dog, Rick Watson.
Rick Watson's got the mic, he's the big dog king. Cover sports so sharp, it's a New River thing. Virginia Tech fire, Radford pride too. Every stat, every play, he's bringing it to you. He's got that voice, deep as a valley, breaking it down, no dilly, no dally. Big dog sports talk, feel the bark, feel the bite. Rick's in the zone, every day, every night, from the Hokies to the Highlanders. He's got the spark, Big dog sports talk, lighten up the dark. He's got the scoop.
Hey, good morning. How are you? It's a Manic Monday. See, that's why Susanna Hoss is on there. It's Monday.
Every word's a hint.
Manic Monday.
From the
Get
coast
it?
to the fields, the stories unfold. Rick's play by play, worth its weight.
Plus, it's never a bad thing to see Susanna Hoss.
He'll pull you in. Big Dog's podcast. Let the games begin. Big Dog's sports talk.
Hope everybody's doing all right coming off the weekend. It's a Reaction Monday here on the program.
Every day, every night.
Coming up a little later, Phil Elmassian, the head football analyst guy that we have on the program. And then Todd Grantham. We'll get into some basketball things from the weekend. Not a lot of great news for our two big basketball programs. All right, go Galax Maroon Tide. Girls basketball. What's up, Colt Band? Colt Bond. Good morning. Get us up in the McClellan Chiropractic chat room or on the professional door text line. We'll get into the weekend that was and talk about very disappointing Big South tournament, at least. And Virginia Tech falls. Good fight in Charlottesville. And to be honest, the way it looks to me in the ACC tournament bracket could have been a lot worse. So I think Tech's got a shot to potentially put themselves in a position to where they may make it difficult for the committee. But we'll see. There's a lot of things that have to happen. I know now the dreaded Lenardi's first 4 out involves Virginia Tech, but we shall see. I never thought I'd hear Mike Young drop an F-bomb during a press conference, but he did. And I know people were trying to play off, when he made that comment last week about going on vacation with his wife. And then he just puts his hands or his face in his hands and says, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm telling you, people can write that stuff off as if it's just nothing, but I think it's something. To me, it feels like Mike Young is coming to a personal decision he's going to have to make here soon about whether he wants to come back. Virginia Tech's not going to make a move. People keep saying, oh, Tech's going to let him go. No, that's not going to happen. But it'll come down to whether he wants to come back next year, and we'll see. But this team now has played its way into, now you have to show me with some wins in the tournament coming up, the ACC tournament. So we'll get your thoughts on that. Tech women get beat up pretty good by Carolina, but they're safely in the tournament. There's no problem with that. And they should get a pretty good seeding, I would think, a decent seeding. So the women are in, the men are faced with having to do some work. From the Wolf Creek Lynx and Bastion and their common green to Palm Harbor's 16th fairway, where I see the morning dew and sheen. BDST is live and online. Everybody handle the spring forward over the weekend. You ever think about this for a second? Like, we do this daylight savings time stuff, and it feels like to me that each time we do it, there's not nearly enough publicity about it. It's like, I don't see, that should be something that reminds people all the time. Now, I know our phones automatically do it, but it just like gets casually mentioned, right? Yeah, very rough weekend for Radford. We lost in the quarters. We blew a big lead. It was an 8-point lead with about 1:15 to go. And then you don't foul at the end when you're up by 3. I'll never understand it. I used to argue with Mike Jones all the time about it. Kid hits a bank 3 and then lose in overtime to Presbyterian, the 6th seed, and Radford finishes 16-16. And a lot of questions now about what may happen going forward. But, yeah, very disappointing Friday. And the women played their guts out yesterday. They got all the way to the championship, lost by 4 to High Point. So High Point sweeps the men and the women. Hey, $5 million roster in the Big South, right? You should win. And that's what happened with the men. I thought Winthrop fought really hard. Big fan of Mark Prosser, the head coach there. But, yeah, it was a drag. It was a real drag, to say the least. Good morning, Prometheus. How are you? What's up, Connie Campbell? So I know the Radford women will be playing in the NIT, and Radford men's season is done at 16-16 on the season. Yeah. So here we are. Yeah, it was about $3 million Radford spent on its team. About $3 million. I mean, it's not really a trade secret. People are asking. So the big thing in that game was Dennis Parker Jr. got locked up by the Defensive Player of the Year for Presbyterian. I think he was maybe 4 of 17 from the field. But it was pretty big collapse at the end. I was hoping Mike would win. I was watching after the women lost their game. I was watching the end of the SoCon semis, and Mike Jones had Greensboro in the semis, and I was hoping they were going to win. Because I wanted to send him the text. Oh, by the way, what about this whole fouling with 3? When you're up 3. Now, granted, the kid made a tough shot to send it to overtime, but yeah. Any tournament they would get into would have to be they'd have to buy their way in, and I don't think we're in position to do that. You're not going to make any NIT. Then you have the whole CBI and the CIT, and then they've added something in Vegas. So I don't believe that's in the men's future. Yeah, he did. The defense was never good enough all year for me. You're right. And that was a problem. I talked to Zach Chu about it all the time. And our defense never, ever, ever was good enough. I think that kind of lends itself to the style of play that Zach decided, to incorporate with the team. It's a very NBA mindset. It's a very NBA mindset. And I don't know if that's just something that when you're thinking so offensively that it takes away from what you might do on the defensive end. I don't know. But I know when we have our conversations in pre-games, he would have trouble trying to figure it out. There were some stretches where they played decent defense, but for the most part, that was the problem. And I think when they look back at this season and not being able to go further in the tournament, it's going to come down to that. Defense let them down at the end of that game on Friday night. And it was never good enough. You're right. And the head coach knows it. So many people sending me texts. I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard a word. I don't know what things are going to look like. You have to assume every year, every collegiate squad in football and men's basketball, you have to just go ahead and think, hey, you're going to have a new team. So we'll see how it all plays out. But this is a new era in which we live, right? It's about the rev share. It's where we are. There's nothing shocking anymore about it. So everybody's involved in it, and everybody does the best they can to survive. So we'll see. We shall see what happens there. And I think, Tech's going to be looking at a new roster next year too. I mean, it's just the way it is. High Point, who won the league, spent by far the most money. They're going to lose all those guys. I'm hearing their head coach may be out the door. I received several coaches texts last night. Flynn Clayman, he might be one and done from what I'm hearing. So they might be looking at revamping their entire program next year. Now, obviously, they have the resources to do it as a private school. They don't operate like everybody else in our league. I'm just saying. And this isn't sour grapes, all right? This is just the way that it is. They're allowed to have a little bit more advantages financially as opposed to a public school. And to their credit, they utilized them the right way. They brought in the right mix of new players, and they got it done. And I'll tell you one thing, they play really hard. And you know what else they do? They defend. I watched yesterday. They defend very, very, very hard. And if you can get a bunch of guys to come in for what they were making at High Point and commit that much defensively, you're doing a really good job as a head coach in modern day college basketball. And I give Coach Clayman all the credit in the world. I really do. They went 30-4. No Big South team had ever won 30 games before. And the thing about it, they lost all 5 starters from last year. Many of those players people considered best players they've ever had at High Point. They replaced them all this year, and here they are going back to the NCAA tournament. May not feel good as a Radford guy, but you just got to tip your cap to them. And with the women last night, boy, they played so hard. Joy Williams was the best player on the floor, 30 points. He had a couple chances late to hit a three to tie the game, and both shots were off. But, man, I'll tell you what, they left everything out there. I was so proud of our women's team and Mike McGuire and Joy, who we had on the program. Remember you met Joy a couple months ago? They played really hard. And I really thought they were going to win that game. I really felt like they were going to win. The way the flow was going in the fourth quarter, they made a big push back. They got down by 11 and got right back in. I thought they were going to somehow win it, but couldn't quite get the shots to fall. But nothing to be ashamed of. They'll go on to the NIT. They deserve to continue their season. And we're going to be pulling like heck for them in that tournament. But as for the men, I believe that's the end of it, Morris, if you ask. Because, like I said, they're not going to get an NIT bid, and then you have to start figuring out finances, and these other tournaments want money, and it's not usually worth it. Then you have to travel to those places, hotels. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't really matter. Let's just say what they are. These other tournaments don't matter. I think the women's NIT still has some cachet the way they do it. I think the men's NIT has been destroyed. So even that one doesn't mean anything on the men's side. But you go to the CBI, the CIT, it doesn't matter. Whatever they're doing in Vegas, those tournaments mean nothing. And all they are money grabs. I mean, that's all they are. Yeah, good question. We'll see. I'm going to guess for a while, Prometheus, nothing's going to happen. You always have the meeting. You always have the hot info coming out. But after the NCAA met with the government, haven't really heard much about it. And I'm guessing we're probably just going to have nothing for a while. Nothing's going to happen. That would be my guess. And I'm not surprised because we're talking about major college athletics. Of course, nothing positive happens. Family Fencing, sponsor of our studios. That's always positive. 540-200-8294, familyfencingnrb.com. If I'm not mistaken, it's going to be warm all week. Is that right? Oh, yeah, we got 70s. A little chilly on Friday and Saturday, but that's okay. Give Jason Green a call at Family Fencing. Let him come check out your property. I told you, we were telling you back when it was cold in winter. Once the green grass started, you started to get the spring itch, you're going to wish you had something worked out with Family Fencing. So go do it now. McClellan Chiropractic, Mark Hunley. Unfortunately, now that my basketball season is over, we'll be going over and I'll be going through the regime. We're going to have that here hopefully before the end of the month. We'll keep you posted. Sponsor of our very popular chat room. Pulaski County Sports Entertainment's the presenting sponsor of this program. Stacy Compton was going to join us, but he forgot that he had a doctor's appointment, and he didn't want to rush through it. He could have done it. So I just said, well, I'll tell you what, let's wait till later in the week when you have more time and you don't feel like you have to jump on. We're going to talk about the IHRA and NASCAR and all that stuff. So Stacy will join us later in the week, and I'll keep you posted. I talked to him a couple times yesterday. Little River Heating Air, 1095 Radford Street in Christiansburg, 540-553-2971. Charles Lee, get your air units, get the cooling units, get them ready. Nobody better than Charles Lee. The attorney, Ryan Price, 701 West Main Street in Radford. Trust estate planning. What do you say for this for our BDST fan question of the week? How many wins does it take for Tech in the ACC tournament to get an at-large bid? They're in better shape, according to Lenardi, than most people thought. National Bank member FDIC, the exclusive banking partner, BDST, also my exclusive banking partner. Professional Door Incorporated, already mentioned him, Travis Williams. Residential commercial garage doors, family owned and operated, 38 years in business. Across from New River Community College. Bob Christ and the Ready Set Fund, check them out, their website, or email Bob, B-O-B, CRIST11 @gmail, and find out how their text messages can help you. And starting their second week supporting the program, Sundown Electric. Best reputation of anyone of an electrical company, if you will. long list of satisfied customers. Attention to detail. They always communicate with their customer. Great reputation. Couple brothers have taken what their dad has done, much like what Travis did with his father's business. I love it to see the legacy continue. The White Vic's always talking about legacy. Well, we got it there with those two entities. Thank you so much for your support. Top Shelf Apparel for our T-shirts. Thanks to the NRV Super Bowl, 25 years in business. We're going to hook up there coming up for our meetup. And then Lawson's Mobile Home Supply, 381-8011 over in Christiansburg. Are there ever any good outcomes? Correct. So my guess is they had all that, and there were some initial comments, and I just don't know if it's going to happen. I just don't have any trust that anything good's going to happen out of that. But again, it goes to show you the things we talk about here end up coming to fruition most times than not, or we're ahead of the game. And we've been saying this for how long? A couple months. My questions have always been, there's nobody going to put their best foot forward because there's nobody within the authority. So how is any change going to be acclimated? Well, you had to go to the route of taking it somewhere else into the federal government. Brian says maybe 2 wins, probably 3 for VT if they're really in the first 4 out. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. At least 2. Any less than 2, you have no shot. And it's going to depend on what happens with these other tournaments. Are there going to be some upsets? We shall see. We shall see. But this is the situation we're left in college athletics. I mean, I work in it. We all just sit around and do the best we can at a place like Radford without any kind of guidance. We try to create our own because we just don't have any from. Nobody seems organized at the highest level. So it's frustrating. Frustrating. Johnson City, they were good hosts for the tournament. Crowds weren't great. And I'm wondering, I talked to Mark Simpson at halftime of our game, the associate commissioner, and they have an option for next year, but he said they're going to have some pretty quick meetings about it to see if that's the best solution. I got the impression that they won't be back in Johnson City next year. He didn't tell me that, but just kind of the vibe I got from him. I think we're going to go back to host sites is what I think is going to happen in the Big South. And I'm not sure, and I'm going to do a complete 180 on that. I used to never like the idea of host sites. I always liked a tournament feel. Going somewhere neutral. I think the current coaches who have a big say, I think they have felt that way, the ADs. But when you see the lack of crowd at most of these games, we had Radford fans at our game. We were the late game on Friday, and it didn't start till well after 9, about 9:30. Yeah, I did. I asked him directly, actually, on the air, Prometheus. We'll get to that. And there was nobody there but us. There were a few PC fans there, but really the players deserve a little more. I think in the early rounds, you have to have the host school. In our league like ours, I'm not saying at the bigger tournaments, but in the Big South, I think we're going to have to say we need to be at a host site. We'll see what happens there. Not sure the bigger tournament feel works, especially in a state where you don't have, there's nobody in Tennessee that plays in the Big South. Now, Johnson City is very accommodating. They do a good job. But I don't know how much local interest are, especially when the Southern Conference tournament is still going. It's down in Asheville. Matthew says, I think Tech needs to beat one of the double bye teams. Possibly so, Matthew. So they voted Yeah, that was the first thing. I mean, I wasn't. I think the world of Mark Simpson. He does a great job. I've done him a long time. I have a lot of respect for him as the associate commissioner. He's also a good friend. He always gets me a case of Diet Pepsi for the tournament. But one of the first things I ask him is, so your decision about the all-conference voting was terrible, right? And the reasoning I got was it was coaches only, apparently, that voted, not even the SIDs. And they said the commissioner decided that there wasn't enough media coverage that balanced out media members voting. I don't know how they came to that conclusion. Did they go through each segment and go, oh, there's 20% less coverage here? It sounded more like, to me, to be honest, and I told Mark this, so I don't mind saying it here. I said, it sounds really lazy. It just sounds like you just wanted the coaches. Well, you can't just have coaches vote for all conference. Their votes are needed to be part of the process, but they're going to vote for their own people. And then we had these ridiculous co-everything, co-coaches, co-defensive player of the year in the women's side. Just stop. Pick one. And I said, really, you kind of watered down what it meant to be all conference, and especially coach of the year. Our women's coach, Mike McGuire, should have been coach of the year. He tied with the Gardner-Webb coach, but he had one more first place vote. So if you have 4 first place votes, as Neil Leahy was telling everybody down there, which was funny, and the other person has 3, then the one with 4 should win. 4 is more than 3. Then I agree. And then on the men's side, it was strange. We had co-coaches, but we had another coach, Quentin Farrell, who did a great job with Presbyterian, also received 3 first place votes. So we actually had 3 coaches, because we have 9 teams, right? So you had 9 coaches vote, and 3 coaches all received 3 first place votes. So then why wasn't Quentin Farrell? Why didn't we have 3 co-coaches? Why didn't we have tri-coaches if you're going to go that route? And I told Mark that. Why did you leave out Quentin Farrell? What was the difference in giving it to Flynn and Prosser, Mark Prosser? Well, because they finished first and second. Okay, but you gave the 6th place women's coach, co-coach. That doesn't fit. Mike McGuire finished second. So, yeah, I got to say my piece. I got to say the things I wanted, which I'm going to. I don't give a damn. When things are wrong and things shouldn't be done a certain way, I'm going to tell people, especially people who make a lot more money than I do. And that was wrong the way they went about conference voting in our league. It was wrong. It didn't make any sense. And it's embarrassing to have anything as much as they try to do in our league. Pick one. No one's going to get their feelings hurt. We don't need participation trophies, especially now in college athletics where the athletes are making a lot of money. Okay? It's okay. Brian says you should know math doesn't matter anymore. Got to include as many people as possible. That's right. Pretty soon, with this mindset, after the end of games, you're going to have one team win 88-83, but the other team's going to get a co-victory consideration because we don't want to. Well, they only lost by 1. So I know we have the winner, but boy, oh boy, they really tried hard on the other side. I think they should get a co-victory. Isn't that kind of what they do in soccer and hockey? Like, you still get points if you tie or if you lose in overtime in hockey, you still get a point. If you lose, you get nothing. Nothing. To quote Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka. Because you lost. There's some intrinsic value, right? To work and to prepare and to have a winner and a loser. That's what makes sports so great. understand the Patriots are the almost winners of the Super Bowl. No. Since Indiana beat Ohio State on the last drive of the game, Miami is the almost winners. So they get a trophy? No, you don't want to hurt their feelings. The young people that are involved in sport, last time I checked, have been involved in sport for a little while. They understand winning and losing and the ramifications and what it takes. They don't need to be pampered as they get older, especially when they're making money. I'll tell you one thing. Mark didn't have an answer when I said, if you had 3 men's coaches with 3 votes apiece, why wasn't the other one included? But you can't just have coaches. Just like you can't just have media members and you can't just have SIDs. You need them all thrown in there. And I don't know how they decided that all of a sudden there wasn't enough media coverage. That seemed like a very lazy explanation to me. Because I was going through it. I mean, obviously at Radford we have it. I know Longwood has it. High Point has a tremendous amount of coverage. So does Winthrop down there in Rock Hill. I know USC Upstate has a beat writer down there. There's 5 of our 9 teams right off the bat. Now, maybe Presbyterian does not. Gardner-Webb had a terrible year. I don't know what kind of newspaper coverage that they get. But everybody else, UNC Asheville, they get great coverage down there. I would say 7 out of the 9 teams have pretty I don't know for sure. But I didn't understand that explanation. And I told Mark, it was an insult to me, somebody who's voted. This is my 26th year as the voice of the Highlanders, and I've voted every year. And it's like you're telling me I'm not capable of looking at the ballot. I mean, I'm not going to front load our guys just because they're our guys. I'm not going to do that. I know who the best players are in this league. I sure as hell would have put Dennis Parker Jr. on the first team. I'll tell you that. And I told that as well to Mark. I said, that seemed like a vendetta. These coaches, I said, Mark, these coaches, and then I'll get off of this. These coaches told me to a man that Dennis Parker Jr. was the best, probably pure offensive player in this league. Every pregame interview, and then they don't put him on first team. That feels like a vendetta to me. Now, he got locked up. He got locked up big time. And I mean big time in the quarters. Sometimes you've got to give credit to the other guy. I know we don't like to do that in this current society, but sometimes you got to give credit to the other guy. And that's what happened in the quarterfinals. And the kid hit the shot. But it happens. So kudos to the women. Great fight yesterday. And I think they can get a game or so in the NIT. I really do. Joy Williams is a spectacular player. If you haven't watched Joy play, if you watched her yesterday, you saw it. Hank Morris, you were watching. I mean, she was clearly the best player on the floor. Unfortunately, she had a really good look on a rebound after the first 3 didn't fall, and she missed. But she had a great look. Tech women, I think, I think they got a shot to win a game. I really do. I think they could get to the Sweet 16. They finished really strong. And we wait on the Tech men. The big tournaments start happening. You have finals coming up tonight. SoCon. I was pulling like heck for Mike Jones last night. They let it get away late. He did a good job getting that team together at the end of the year. I hope he's back in coaching. You know, when he came in for the Hall of Fame induction at Radford, I asked him, he goes, what's your long term? Because I'm pretty much year to year now, just how I'll wake up one morning and if it ever hits me that I need to move on now, you know? But he's good for young men. He's one of the finest human beings I've ever known. And I hope he still decides to be a mentor to young people. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how these tournaments play out. And unlike the bowl season in college football, which mean nothing other than the ones involved in the playoff, conference tournaments are still pretty big in college basketball, right? Huge. You still have the automatic bid attached to it. Plus, you can then do what you need to do to enhance your resume. So this gets fun. We will have a BDST bracket. I'm going to create one through the ESPN site. It's kind of the easiest one to use. I'll post the link on the Facebook page, all the social medias, and then I'll do it here as well. Okay? So that way we'll have it. And I want all of us to get in there and have a good time. Keon's going to be in there, and Mike Ashley and Jen and all these people. Yeah, Greensboro is the perfect place, Wayne, for the ACC tournament. I agree. Just leave it there. I mean, Georgia Tech and Florida State and Miami won't like that. People up in the Northeast won't like that. But you know what? Cal, Stanford, I really don't care. You were given gift membership to the ACC. Deal with it. The ACC in basketball still is identified by Tobacco Road, not by the expansion. Certainly not by Cal, Stanford, even Syracuse and Pitt and BC, right? Not basketball-wise. We don't think of it that way. Yeah. Just wait till they put the tournament out there in Cali. I'm still waiting on someone to give me one logical benefit now that we're 2 years later. What one logical benefit that Cal and Stanford has added to the ACC? Well, they're really good academic schools, and that's really important. Really? When no one even considers academics? When's the last time you heard about academics? Sorry, I was belching. I didn't want you to see that. When's the last time you heard about academics for any of the modern athletes? When do we ever hear about that now? I mean, tell me what they've added. I'm still waiting. Nobody in the ACC cares. No fan base cares. How many Tech fans have been excited about those Stanford and Cal matchups in any sport? None? That's what I thought. Boy, when Syracuse and Stanford get together on the women's lacrosse field, watch out. You talk about a knee-jerk reaction move that made no sense at the time and feels like it makes less sense now. That's the one. That's the one. But anyway. And lots of kids graduate in 3 years. Things that, yeah. Used to be the biggest thing, right? It still is at Radford. We just had our highest student athlete average GPA posted ever. Take a lot of pride in that with our coaches and administrators, people who work with our young people. I can't speak about other places because I don't work at other places, but I do know that we don't see the coverage of it from anybody, national pundits. We don't hear about, this kid may be academically ineligible now. When's the last time that happened? Moore says Berkeley adds flowers in their hair. Very fashionable. We need that in the Deep South, especially. And I'm just going to assume, I'm going to just stereotype everybody out there. They're going to just try to talk like this, man. Hey, man. We got to go all the way to Blacksburg, man. You got to go to Blacksburg, Virginia, man. Wow, righteous, dude. You got any surfing out there, man? Actual footage of Stanford and Cal when they come east. I mean, I guess we've come to accept Syracuse, BC, and Pitt, especially on the football side, because when Tech was good and BC was good, Matt Ryan, some great matchups. Pitt has had some really good years. Tech and Pitt have had some good games. Smoke another joint. Don't forget the Cheetos, man. It wasn't hard to understand that was never going to make sense. Now, SMU, you can say, what about SMU? And somebody just sent me a text. Well, SMU is a little different case because they don't have any financial liability whatsoever. They have so much money. That's why they waived their side of the revenue sharing in the ACC for the TV contract. That was their compromise. You know why? Because they knew they could raise more than that in a heartbeat just to go into a major league, which they did, which they posted. You remember when they got in, they needed a certain amount of entry money, and they said, look, we're going to just let everybody else keep the revenue share. And they ended up getting 3 times as much money as they needed just in like a week. Oil money is real money. Did you know that? This just in, breaking news. Did you know that? That there are rich oil men down there at SMU?
Oh my. Oh, no. Oh, no. That was out of nowhere.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I mean, they posted it. You can go back and find the tweets. And they posted it a week later. Oh, look. We got exactly what we needed. And then some. Welcome to the ACC. So, you know what? I know it doesn't make sense geographically. I'll tell you what. They took care of it themselves, and they don't have any excuses, and they don't care. They're adding millions of dollars upgrades to their football stadium. You know why? Because they have the money to do it. Morning, Robert in Montana. How are you? Coffee is on. Me too, Robert. My coffee is on. I did see that one coming, Landman. Absolutely. When the price of oil goes up 30% today, they will only get richer. Yeah, how about the price gouging, by the way? The intentional price gouging that'll won't last too long, but it'll last long enough to make us feel it for about a month. Yeah, that's right. 2-hour difference there in the mountainous, beautiful terrain of Montana where Robert dwells. Hadn't heard from you in a while, Robert. Good to have you back. Are you a Grizzlies fan or are you a Bobcats fan? Or neither? Which one do you side with, Robert? I don't think I ever you a Montana fan, Montana State, or other? I figure it's got to be one of the two. Been out there a couple times. Beautiful state. Beautiful. That whole area, man. Rocky Mountain High indeed through that whole terrain. headed southwestward. Yeah, but get ready to pay a lot more for gas here soon. Now. Turn me loose, set me free, somewhere in the middle of Montana. Yeah, we played in Montana State's tournament years ago. Years ago. It was 70 2 days ago. Yeah, it's going to be 70 this week here. I think we're about done with the hard winter stuff. Knock on wood. 73 tomorrow. Supposed to rain a lot on Wednesday, like a whole lot. Wow. Rain on Thursday. 58 on Friday, then back up to the mid to upper 60s Saturday and Sunday. Ooh, next Tuesday it's cold. One more cold snap early next week. That sucks. And then I think we're done. Yep, that's what it looks like. I believe that's what it looks like. $280 to $320. Yeah, it'll go up over $4 here soon, and then it'll start to regulate. That's true. It's usually at least 3 false springs, isn't it? You're right, Wayne. At least. Craig, he hit me up on the text line. Stacy Compton later in the week. He had a doctor's appointment, and I appreciate him saying I didn't want to rush through the interview. I want to talk more about all this stuff. So that makes a lot of sense. So we're going to get him on later in the week. Yep. Talked to him at length yesterday, and we'll have him on. But he didn't want to do like 10 minutes and just, okay, I got to go now. So I appreciate that. Yeah, we're all in for a little expensive fill-up now. The price gouging, it never ceases to amaze me. It's so unnecessary, but boy, they want to make sure that, again, much like the fans in all these sports, who gets screwed? Us. While the others make all the money, we're the ones that have to pay the price. Great article I wrote in the Patriot. Thanks, Rodney. Oh, the last one? About the tournament? I've had a good time. I hope Mike I hope Mike's getting what he wanted out of those. They show up every Friday morning, by the way, in the Patriot. Big Dog Barks with me, Rick Watson. I'm not happy about the tournament expansion. This time of year is always, it's really the last thing we have. And we're not going to have it after this year. I have no faith at all that this thing is going to be done correctly at all. And I think we're going to go up at least 10 teams or more next year. And then eventually the coaches, if they want 128 and they know TV is going to support it, then that's what's going to happen. And it's going to water down and destroy the last great American sporting event, which is the NCAA basketball tournament. So enjoy your brackets this year. That was kind of the gist of the article. So it's very disappointing, but not surprising like everything else. College football's been destroyed. And now we're going to have the NCAA tournament destroyed. So it's dumb. It's dumb. No, I don't care what the NBA does. I know they let everybody in. Don't they have like 10 teams now from each side? It's the economy, stupid. Yeah. I like that. I've never cared any less about a sports league than I do the current NBA. That league is not marketed toward me. in any way, shape, or form. Nor is it really marketed toward true basketball fans. They've made their decisions, and good luck with it. As your television ratings continue to plummet, nobody interested in your you may have a stupid in-tournament season, and nobody wants all these wild card things they add. It's just, you have failed as a league, right? When you have to actually entertain the idea of reducing your season because the players don't want to play 82 games and they know the fan base doesn't want to support it. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, nobody cared about how many games the NBA or the NHL played. Major League Baseball plays 162 games. And now it looks like the NBA is going to reduce their schedule by at least 14 games, maybe. Really? Ryan says, Ryan Pryor, the attorney, sponsor of our BDST fan question of the week. No offense to diehard Tech fans, but the Hokies are not deserving to make the tournament. Next year, they would be a lock if it was expanded. Yes, they would. And then therefore goes the meaning of it. Oh, we're in. It goes back to the Big South and their participation awards. That's what the NCAA tournament's going to be. Hey, we made the tournament. Yay. The Big South will become a 2-bid league. The game prices don't invite kids to come out. Exactly. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Oh, how bad the bubble teams will be in the exactly. We know what it's going to be, and I wrote about it. You're going to have now, all it's going to be, and this is what they want, you're going to be watching the power conference tournaments all over again. You're going to be watching games you don't give a damn about in the Big 10 or the Big 12, teams that are barely 500, maybe even under 500, playing one another because that's what the big boys wanted. Boy, I know that gets me excited for March Madness. Not the little guy, not the Cinderella story. The Cinderella story. Master champion. Sorry. Not the upset potential, not looking at a 5-12 matchup or the 13-4 matchup or the 6 versus the 11 and thinking, ooh, I think I'm going to pick this on my bracket. Nah. Now you're going to have, oh boy, this 24-4 matchup. It's a no. It's a no. Yeah, NFL free agency, the spending frenzy will be underway. It'll be interesting to see with the expended cap. Who goes where, what happens. Usually the clubs who spend the most money in free agency don't do very well the following year. So we'll see exactly. And you can tell when guys are just taking the check, right, depending on the organization that they go to. Max Crosby gets traded for a number 1 this year and a number 1 next year. The Ravens. That happened. So for the Raiders, to be honest, I get it. Crosby's getting a little older in tooth now. He probably has. I love him. Love Max Crosby. He's one of my favorite players in the league, even though he played for the hated Raiders. But I think that's a good trade for Vegas. I do. They get another number 1 this year, next year, new coaching staff, young guys, build. People were criticizing him. I think they're wrong. Crosby wasn't happy there. He's older. His body's going to start to go at that position. I think it was a really good move by the Raiders, to be honest with you. And I love him. And I know they're not a better team without him. I know they're not a better team right now without him, but they're giving themselves a chance to be a better team with Fernando Mendoza and Clint Kubiak. So from a Raiders perspective, I thought it was a pretty good trade. And the Ravens are clearly trying to fix what was a horrible defense. They gave up a lot, paid him a lot too. So I think that's a pretty good deal for the Raiders. And if the Ravens got a great player. How about both teams won? Is Caddyshack the funniest sports-related movie? Ooh. It sounds like a future Big Dog Pop episode. Calm down, Rick. I'm going to FedEx you some leftover medication. You've been waiting 20 years for a winning season. It'll happen, Robert, now. It'll happen. I think the first Major League is very funny. I'm not a big fan of Talladega Nights, to be honest. I think it got kind of stupid. Will Ferrell humor is only – I like Anchorman. I like that character, but a lot of his stuff is just the same stuff regurgitated in a different package. Yeah, Major League was my pick too, Brian. I think Major League is still the funniest movie. Tebow loves Wildcats. Football. With Goldie Hawn. It's the sport of kings. Better than diamond rings. Football. The original Longest Yard, not the crappy remake. And the original Longest Yard wasn't really funny. It was just well made. Major League's getting a lot of votes. Raiders was Robert's son's third word. Really? That's cool. Hello, Mom, Dad, Raiders. Oh, did he go, the Raiders? The old Chris Berman. Original Bad News Bears, really good. Not the one with Billy Bob. And I like Billy Bob, but no, don't remake these movies. Stop. Just stop. And Talladega Nights is not really a sports movie. It's just a movie that was centered around NASCAR. So those two actors could do exactly what they did in Step Brothers, just in different characters. That was actual footage of your son, Robert, right there. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Major League is my choice. And again, it has to be the uncut version of Major League. It can't be the don't watch the one on TV. Just the subtle things in that movie that are funny, you know. Charlie Sheen's really good in that movie. Really good in that movie. And you don't get to say that much, but he was in that movie. And when the manager takes a leak on Dorn's contract, Bob Uecker tops off that movie. And all that was ad-lib, by the way. Just a bit outside is not the funniest part of any of that dialogue. That gets overplayed just a bit. It's good, but the things like Vaughn is a juvenile delinquent in the offseason. The way he did the voice inflection as a broadcaster, you really appreciate it. We don't know where Hayes played last year, but I'm sure he did a hell of a job. And we hope to have names with those numbers before the first pitch. I have never seen Kingpin. I know. Dodgeball's funny. Yes, Dodgeball's funny. Happy Gilmore is okay. I think it gets way too much love. It's okay. I don't dislike it, but it's okay. It's okay. Carl Weathers was the best part of all that, right? Kevin Nealon. Kevin Nealon was underrated, Morris. That's a good call. He was good on Saturday Night Live, and he was a funny guy. Absolutely. Yeah, I talked about that, Brandon. I never thought I'd see Coach Young drop the F-bomb, cover his face. My comment is this. We had people on last week, and I mentioned the whole thing about him. I'm going to, Coach Elmo's coming on. I'm going to ask Coach Elmo. Coach Elmo knows all. But, last week he was asked a question. He talked about, I couldn't wait to go on vacation with my wife. And then he sits there and he buries his head in his hand and says, I don't know what the F I'm doing wrong. That doesn't sound like to me something that's just flippantly being said. And there he is, the man who knows all. Coach Elmo. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Rick, I really looking at Coach Young. I always watch the UVA or Tech basketball games because of my associations with both universities. And he's one player away from being 12-6.
Yeah, right.
He's one player away, Rick. When you look at what's the difference between Virginia and Virginia Tech, I don't know anything about the game, but I do know athletic talent enough. I think I have enough experience in that realm of athletics, evaluation of talent. You look at Ritter for UVA.
Yeah.
If he has Ritter, he wins 4 more games, Rick.
And the kid they paid for didn't. And the kid they paid for, Coach, didn't necessarily pan out.
No, you know what? He's probably the 6th best player on that team.
No, yeah.
He's the 6th man, Rick. Talent. That
they misread that. They misread that. Yeah.
And that's not the kid's fault. No one's fault. It's just it's like Johnny Manziel with all that hype.
Yeah.
After he beats Alabama in Birmingham, the press anoints him as Mr. Football, and it was downhill from there.
Oh, absolutely. He was going to be can't miss everything. Yep.
The kid comes out and goes and in the Providence game, what was that? Almost like the first or second game of the year, and knocks it out of the park. And next thing you know, he's anointed, and when he gets into the ACC, it's like, no, this ain't your European league you came from.
Correct.
And that was the whole different, just from a talent standpoint. I'm not talking, I don't know crap about basketball other than put it in the hoop. And if it doesn't go in, rebound it and don't turn it over. That's what I would know about the game. That's how I would coach the game, and nothing beyond that. And but now he's one player away. And the sad part is he's going to lose some kids. It's a cycle. It's a cycle of a never-ending story of being middle of the road ACC team. I mean. And he's 8-10, 8-10, 12-6. It's 4-game difference with one play.
And you're in the tournament. You're in the NCAA tournament.
You're tied with Clemson.
Right.
You're tied with Clemson. So that's how I look at, let me tell you, Rick, in evaluating players, and like what I did for Todd, there's literally 4 categories you could put players in. I don't care what sport you're coaching, whether it's football or basketball, and maybe even baseball, particularly in football and basketball. You can this kid have and you got to have the intangibles. That's a given. The intangibles of hard work, commitment, and all those. So let's say the kid has all that. Now let's look at the talent. Okay, well, does he have the combination of the talent and the intangibles? Number one, to affect the outcome of a game. That was that's the first category you're trying to find. Like I really believe the Ritter kid, not knowing anything about the kid, the game, or whatever, he affects the outcome of a game.
He does.
And not necessarily he's going to have great stats or going to put 30 a game in the hoop. Doesn't matter. His presence under that basket or even outside, in the three-pointer, he'll affect the outcome of a game. So that's the first category. Then the next category I always try to place kids in, can he be an all-conference performer, particularly by the time it's his second year there? Is he going to be able to be a, first team, second team, all conference before within his first or second year at any program he's at, in terms of when you're really surmising the evaluation. And then you say, okay, then the kid's a solid, he's a solid starter. He's a solid starter. We can have a winning season with this kid playing for us. Okay, his talent will give us that. Or he's a solid, he's a kid who's a solid player, and there's a difference between a solid starter and a solid player. Where you're with a solid player, you're looking to upgrade. You play him until you can replace him. And that's it. Those are the four categories. So how many of the Virginia Tech kids, do they have kids that can affect the outcome of a game? I don't know. Do they have all conference potential performers? Oh, there's some players that UVA would like to have from Virginia Tech. That Lowell kid, I don't know his name, but the kid that can vertical jump
Lowell?
out.
Ben Hammond?
Yeah, Hammond. And there's some kids that I promise you, Clemson or UVA, Miami, they'd love to have. They take them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, would you agree with that statement, Rick? I'm just curious.
100%. Yeah.
You watch basketball a whole lot longer in your lifetime than I have.
Nobody would deny Ben Hammond on their roster. Absolutely, 100%.
So. You sit there and go, no, he's got he has looks, and the kids compete. The one thing about the UVA game, they competed. The UVA's got better players, and the both coaches are excellent coaches. They both, that you could see the coaching. I'm watching kids playing with their bend of the knees, and defensively, at least from a former defensive back coach, they're playing pretty good coverage.
Right, you're looking at
That's how I look at it. I go, hey, that Lowell kid, if I was Coach Franklin, I'd be recruiting his ass and say, look, I don't know if you can make it in the NBA, but I can put a whole lot more money in your pocket.
So what do you think? You watch Coach Young. I mean, you what he said about the vacation, and then do you think it's hitting him now? You think he's actually thinking about hanging him up? Just your opinion.
He's the greatest actor in the world, or I just see it in his eyes. I think this is it. I hope not. I truly hope not, for the players there and the university and what he brings to that university, the character, the integrity, and all the things are great, and what he's done. But it's still what have you done for me lately? And guess what? If he starts losing kids, if he loses those kids, all of a sudden, Clemson or somebody in the Big 12 or
they're all gone.
Those kids, SEC,
they're all gone.
He's got to start all over, Rick.
Yeah, he will.
He's got to start all over, and he doesn't even have. I don't know if he has players that affect the outcome of a game, or one player that can truly affect the outcome of a game. Not for a 12-6 record. Now, for an 8-10 record, yeah, he's got players that can affect an outcome of a game for those, quote, 8 wins in the conference, but not 12.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, the evaluation. Yeah, I look at his eyes and his demeanor. You know him better than I do, Rick. His body language, the eyes. Brian White and my buddy, I'm on his favorite chapter. I just finished. The eyes, it's all about the eyes. And, when you go into recruiting, now you've asked me before what traits you're chatting, having remiss really thinking back to it, it was the first thing we want to do. We looked at those kids' eyes, because the eyes are the gateway to the heart. You want to evaluate, you got two kinds of eyes. You got bright eyes and dull eyes. I have never recruited a dull-eyed kid, and I've never started a dull-eyed kid. I want the bright-eyed guys. I got a great picture. I'll send it to you of Scott Jones, who was a fifth-year senior walk-on for me at Virginia Tech that beat out a lot of scholarship kids. We eventually offered him. His eyes were so bright that you just, his talent level was average at best, 1 AA talent, but those eyes and his heart were off the charts. So I look at Coach Young's eyes, and I don't see it.
And I completely understand it, Coach. I get it, because you think about everything. Those more veteran coaches, the ones who've already walked away, but they cut it off at the pass. They didn't even want to get into this part of what it is. I get it. Look how he had to build Wofford, right? It's all about relationships, finding diamonds in the rough, getting kids to commit to your system as opposed to getting to commit to a paycheck. Then this year they finally had money to spend, and the biggest fish they hauled in ended up being one you wanted to look at and throw back, right? It didn't work out.
Now that I can appreciate, trust me.
I wanted to use a fishing reference for you. You know?
I got it, Rick. I got it. Thank you. But you know what, though, Rick? It's like that's how he won. Think about this. He wins an ACC tournament. What was it, 5 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah, right off the bat. Yeah.
Well, he did it the same way he built Wofford.
That's right.
So, Mark Duffner, we played together at William Mary. Duff was a great football coach. He ended up spending decades in the NFL and very respected and revered. Matter of fact, they offered him the Cincinnati head coaching job, Bengals, and he turned it down. He goes, "Hey, I'm not your guy." So they hired Dick LeBeau, but he just retired last year. But when we were at the Lou Holtz Hall of Fame at William and Mary, he came. He was a freshman when I was a sophomore at William Mary, and he turned to me. Rick, I always got calls. Bud called me. I get these calls about 4 or 5 years ago going, "How'd you do it?" From retiring, because they knew I was a lifer. I mean, I had no life outside of football.
Right.
And that was my life and how I was defined. So I would have a lot of guys, they would literally call, or just when they see, "Phil, how'd you do it?" I said, real simple. And Mark Duffner asked me the same thing. We were on the steps of the Williamsburg Lodge. He goes, "Phil, what was the reasons and what did you find that you were going to retire?" I said, "Mark, if you can still win a championship," he's with the Bengals at the time. He's assistant coach of the Bengals. I said, "If you can win a title or go to the Super Bowl or win your AFC championship or go to that game, stay in it. But if you can't, what's one more win? If you don't think you can get to a Super Bowl or get to the conference championship, what's one more win for you in your career? You're not a head coach. You're not a coordinator. You're a position coach." The next year, they went to the Super Bowl. The Bengals in 22. So he stayed in it for about, I said, "Great, good for you. Stay with it." If you can't do that, when you get to that point where you're not in contention to win a championship, when you're 55, 60 plus years old, now the reasons more so now, Rick, and you're right in what you're seeing. They're just, does Coach Young, all that time and efforts to build a team, a turnaround to build a team, and next thing you know, he's got to do it again, and it's still a crapshoot because, like you say, the Greek was the savior, and he became really. I looked at him and that talent as I look at it, not necessarily the sport. He's the 6th best talent on the team. I really believe that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to follow it all. It depends on how you wake up one morning. Isn't that what Tony Bennett said? That's exactly what Tony Bennett said.
Nick Saban, this conversation with his wife. What are we doing? That was a question his wife posed to Nick. This is like he had 2 talks ready to go before his team after the season was over with in January. He had 2 ready to go. From what I've heard, he had the normal yearly deal or I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And his wife, the day before, because all the conversations were the players, it wasn't about the exit meetings were not about how you're going to improve yourself. The exit meetings turned into how much money do we have here? And his wife said, "What are we doing? What are we doing?" Because she was involved in the recruiting too. And he walked into that team meeting and said, "I'm done." So, Tony Bennett, Nick said, and I've always said the NCAA could care less. They're not sitting there going, "Oh my God, we lost Nick Saban." Even the commissioners, think about it, presidents and commissioners. When Tony Bennett gets out, Oh, God, great, let's name the court. No, you got a problem. You have a problem when this man gets out of coaching. It's a statement in my eyes.
Jay Wright.
How first class is this guy?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if you have sons, daughters, whatever, these are the coaches you want them to play for. Not necessarily this is the university I want to go to. You want you want to play for your son to play for a Lou Holtz, a Nick Saban, a Dick Bennett, a Jay Wright. And that's what it's all said and done. Don't discount that. Those players, they're not going to the university because of the university, but by itself, they're going to play for the head football coach. And with addition to what the university stands for.
Do you think anything positive is going to come out of these whole meetings with the government, or is that just a laughable question?
What did Reagan say? I can't remember the quote. The worst words you could ever hear. I'm the federal government. And I'm here to
yeah, and he was the head of it, and he said that. Right.
he was the guy. And that holds so true. The problem is, Rick. Think about this. This is how bad it is, Rick. To try to unify. Think about this, Rick. You've got 50 individual states and an average of two big time programs within each state, University of and universities, the state universities, Michigan State, you got Auburn, Alabama, Virginia Tech, Washington State. So each state as an average, there's two majors in every state, just about. Very few. There's Wisconsin's and the Minnesotas, with a few exceptions. So you've got all those states that and there's judges in those states that are going to rule. Well, no, sorry, no. So the NCAA, they're losing their lawsuits. So how do you unify that? You've got commissioners. Then within the states, then you got the conference. Yeah. The conference is in itself. Which the commission, they're all, hey, every program, the head coach, all he cares about is his program.
Right.
Period. And that doesn't make them bad people. They're not supposed, they got enough on their plate.
That's exactly right. Okay? Yeah.
The commissioners, what do they care about? Their conference. They're not supposed to, it's like when Bobby Bowden and Coach Oates, when Bobby Bowden put about 40 on. And Lou said, hey, why'd you run up? He goes, Lou, that's not my responsibility. That's your job.
Right.
To keep the score down.
Right.
And so there's the same thing. It's you're right now that to me, that's a panic sign for me that they bottomed out and nothing can be done when they have to go to the federal government. Because they're going to think they're going to try to unify because it's all about the one. Here's the problem what I think with the NCAA. It's another NCAA cop-out. Not only have they lost lawsuits, Rick, they're afraid now of the lawsuits, fear the lawsuits. They won't fight. They won't fight it, and they won't. And here's the most important thing, Rick. They won't spend the money to sue because they're losing. They've lost so much. They're not going to spend that money to lose a lawsuit like they've lost because that's all about individual states, not necessarily. And then you got 22 teams outside of men's football and basketball. How the hell are you going to figure this out?
I don't know.
You're talking about an unsolvable issue is what I'm looking at. And the federal government, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Block the lawsuits? Hey, they have trouble. Trump gets sued by states. Think about that. He's trying to do executive orders. I'm no politician, trust me. I have no clue what the hell's going on. And for 40 years, I didn't even know Vince Lombardi had died till about a year later because I was so invested in what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so, you think about that. The federal government has a hard time with judges in their states getting things done, people getting sued and things blocked. So what the hell problem are they going to solve? So no, I'm very pessimistic. It's until the money people decide they're not giving the money to pay these guys. That's it.
Correct. The SEC,
Period.
yes. If the SEC or the Big Ten would say, you know what, there's no law here. Here's what we're going to do with the rev share. We're not going to. This is going to be a cap. And if they created a cap, everybody else would follow.
Yeah, but they can't, because if SEC creates a cap, the Big Ten is going to go, thank you.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the alliance is gone, isn't it? Yeah, you're right.
If the SEC decides, hey, we're doing a cap, we're going to have a transfer rule, because, I'm talking decades and decades ago, there were two people who ran the NCAA. Walter Byers, who was the head of the NCAA, the head, and Bear Bryant. They had the because they used to have conference letters when I was in coaching. It was a conference letters of intent. The SEC, the ACC, and certain independents, they were all together in other words, and this was the Bear Bryant rule. If you signed with, like when I was at Richmond was a part of the southern areas of conferences of SEC, ACC, and Richmond was a part of it. Florida State was a part of it. All the Virginia Tech was all the major independents. They had a conference letter, and it was a Bear Bryant rule. In other words, you signed in December with any of the SEC schools, ACC school, and the smattering of independents, you could not sign a letter of intent in February with any of those schools in the SEC or ACC. In other words, if you couldn't get them, they didn't want to play against them. So you had to, if you were not happy with your signing in December, you had two other choices: Big Ten or Pac-10, or Big Ten, Pac-10 at that time. And that's how it was back then in terms of rulings. And then nobody sued. Like if a kid signed at Alabama and all of a sudden he don't want to sign that letter of intent, he can't go to an ACC school. He can't go to an SEC school. He's got to go to the Big Ten to sign that February national, because you had conference letters of intent in December and national letters. Those days are over.
Right.
But that's what they had. And don't forget, here's the NCAA. The NCAA they felt like the head football coaches had too much power. Okay? Too much control, excuse me. And so I've always said you talk about people with letters in front of their names being as ignorant as you possibly can. It was never about control. It was all about accountability. When you played for Coach Holtz, it was not, you didn't control anybody. You were accountable. And the NCAA, so they gave all the control to the players with no accountability. Accountability, the coach doesn't have it anymore. The players don't have any accountability. There's no accountability once you sign letters and documents. So it's a total mess.
And I saw a couple arguments from some of these pundits on these other sites. It makes sense to me now. Like, I think the athletes and the people that are pessimistic look at it, they never put a salary cap on coaches and what they make with their buyout. Kirby Smart making $13 million. How do you allow that payment scale to continue to escalate? And then all of a sudden, when you introduce the payment scale to the athletes, you're all of a sudden going to say that has to be controlled. Well, the lawsuits are going to be like, what about what you're paying these coaches? Which is ridiculous, by the way. No football coach should ever make $13 million a year.
I absolutely 100% agree with you, Rick. And I do. And if you know me, if I didn't, I'd
I know you would. You'd tell Rick, go jump in a lake.
But here's the thing about it, Rick. When you really look at NFL contract, you look at contracts. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I've never, but from what I've heard, at least from people who've been involved playing or coaching in the leagues and whatever, when you hear about these millions of dollars that these coaches are getting or these players get, don't forget, a lot of it's incentive based. What is the base salary? What's the base? When you look at give me your base yearly that school's paying you. Now, let's throw Nike in there. Let's throw the TV. Let's throw your TV show. Let's throw your radio show. If you win the SEC, if you go to a New Year's Day bowl, we had bonuses at Wisconsin, big time bonuses. Bob Pruitt, if he won 8 games at Marshall, anything after that, he got 30% of the gate. And he's divvied that up with the coaches. So when you're looking at salaries, don't forget a lot of it is incentive based, a lot of it. You know, and if you're not reaching those incentives, you're probably getting fired.
Yeah.
You know, because the incentives are all about what, Rick? Winning. And so, you know, but I do agree with you 100%. I think that's even a problem with the assistant coaches now. You know, like I said, they're chasing money, not necessarily develop, you know, the things that we grew up with in coaching. And I'm not a get off my lawn guy. Hey, God bless them. Go for it. I probably averaged for 40 years about $80,000 a year, my average for 40 years from 1974 to 2014.
Well, you're right. That's a great point. And I've heard other coaches say that around college basketball. A lot of these assistants, you got to be careful. They're like the pay-for-play athletes that are jumping from school to school. Guys are saying, "What can I make at this school?" You're right. They're instead of being committed to that coach, they're saying, "Oh, look how much more I'm going to make." They're running into it from an assistant's point of view. You're right, 100%.
You know, the good news, Rick, I will say one thing. You know, the SEC was a really cutthroat league, and particularly even among coaches. And especially now, you know, from 2000 on, Nick was probably one of the first coaches into that big time salary, especially when he went to LSU. And only good news about going to LSU as a defensive coordinator. Nobody on that staff was stabbing my ass in the back to have my job. Nobody. There were 2 positions on that staff that you wanted no part of. Defensive coordinator and recruiting coordinator. It was, you know, all of a sudden you become the poster child for the abused football coach in coaching. And so that was the only good news. But that working for a guy like Nick or a guy like Coach Holtz, you don't want the titles.
No. Well, that's good stuff. Good stuff. Well, good discussion as always, Coach. We'll probably have you on later in the week too. I was thinking, I got a feeling.
You know what, Rick? Let me throw this out to you real quick, so you can. I'll probably have to send this to you. The next 4 weeks, you know, all of a sudden my life has gone from retired to unretired.
Yeah, good for you.
I'm going to South Bend Saturday. They're going to have a viewing Sunday. Oh,
great.
And then they're going to have the church services Monday. Well, you know, the church services, I probably not be able to get in. You know, they're going to, you can't imagine. Think about this, Rick. William and Mary, Minnesota, South Carolina, Notre Dame, NC State. Can you imagine the administrative people, former players? And then you look at people in politics, you know, people, every facet of life.
Yeah.
If they can get there, they're going to get there. So I'm just going to the visitation because I text Skip Holtz, his son. I sent him a picture of me and Lou and I've known Skip when he's 6 years old, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And he texted me back. So going to the visitation, I can spend time with him and
sure. It's great. That's awesome.
And so I'm leaving Saturday and coming back Monday. And then Wednesday of that week, tell Jim, by the way, I'm going to South Carolina spring practice.
Oh, my goodness gracious. That's great.
Well, I've done it every year because Torian Gray is the DB coach. He's actually now co-coordinator, which I helped him in his career early. And, of course, with Shane down there, they treat me so good when I get there. It's a lot of fun. I go with a buddy of mine named Jeb McMillan. He's got a band here down in Myrtle Beach. We've become good friends. And he's a big South Carolina Gamecock fan, huge.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, tell Torian to come on the show. That'd be a great conversation. You and him on here, that'd be great.
Yeah. Then I got to go to. Then I got to be in Roanoke from the 22nd to the 26th. I don't know if you know Roger Neal. He owns a bunch of restaurants and stuff like the 419. Frankie Rollins in Salem. You know, he's a big deal or whatever, money guy. I think he's a big supporter of Roanoke College. And, you know, but they want to have a big get together with, Paige Moyer, Greg, myself, Baker, Chuck Baker in Roanoke. And so I got to do that. And then on the 30th, I got to go out to New Mexico and for 4 days to clinic out there.
Oh, that's awesome, though. Look at you. You're everywhere.
I don't know how I'm going to do it. Hey, it's the schedule's so tight. I got to cut back on my wine. I won't make it. My 5 o'clock happy hour.
We'll have to see if we can catch you. We'll have to see if we can catch you at each stop. That'd be kind of cool to find out like what you're doing.
Yeah, I'll bring the camera and the recording.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
If you want to do it, we can do it.
Oh, absolutely, we want to do it.
So it's a slam. And then April 6th, I'm going on a cruise. Jan and I going on a cruise with my buddy Jeb McMillan. We're all going on a cruise. So it's like
good
wow.
for you. That's great.
I don't know, Rick. I ain't no spring chicken now. I mean, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna tape my ankles and do it.
Tape your ankles and go. Let's go. You've got one more year in you to go travel like that. Yeah, that'll be great.
Hey, by the way, I'll let you go. Hey, I really apologize. I didn't know Roland Lazenby was on after me. I was cutting into his time.
No, it's great. Rick. No, he was great.
Oh, Rick, just X me out. Sorry, Phil. Goodbye. Oh my God, what a great guest I loved. What an unassuming, humble man.
Yeah.
For all that notoriety he has.
I know.
Wow.
I love the way he called Coach Beamer Frankie Beamer. Like genuinely, that's what I knew him growing up. Frankie Beamer.
Yeah, that was so cool. Hey, and by the way, one more thing about this Cal Stanford thing.
Yeah.
Having coached in the West Coast at University of Washington, the Stanford and Cal people are so pompous. They're pompous asses. They make UVA look like a land-grant university.
Correct.
In their mind.
In their mind. Correct. They're wrong, but in their mind.
Yeah.
Right.
And the ACC, enhances this pompous. I'm telling you, the Stanford particularly was the most hated football program in the Pac-10, especially at the University of Washington. And that's another story.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
They thought their crap didn't stink. We're Stanford and all the rest of you peons, And so, like I said, they make Virginia look like the land-grant university.
That's good.
In their mind. All right, Rick, I'll let you go, buddy. It was fun.
Well,
thank you.
Hey, thanks for being on. Let me know now. I'd like to get you on again, but we'll play with your schedule. However your schedule needs to go.
We'll work it out. Whatever whatever. Hey, you know me. If you need a time filler, I'm good.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited for it. That's cool.
Yeah, next 3 weeks is going to be crazy. It's going to.
I know that's cool. You get to do all that stuff though. That's awesome.
All right, buddy. Awesome. Hey, you take care, my friend.
All right, Coach. You too. Have a great week, man. We'll talk again this week.
Cool.
Take care, man. Good stuff from Phil Elmassian, Coach. Good stuff. That's great, man. He's going to be at all these camps. He's going to be traveling. I'm going to go take care of Creed, and I'll be back because he's over here. It's warm, so hang on. Come here, buddy. And I went ahead and pulled the shade too, so that way we didn't have to worry about that. So now the shade is pulled. So hopefully I got it pulled enough. All right, what did I miss here? Tech has been in the bottom third of the ACC in NIL basketball, or pay for play. Let's stop calling it NIL. I got into that down the weekend. Everybody agreed with me, by the way, at the Big South. Doesn't matter if Young comes back or if they go hire another coach. Yeah, I don't know what – I'd like, again, we don't know, Tebow, and this is what's frustrating. I can only imagine what the pay-for-play budget is at Duke, Carolina, Virginia. You know, and I don't know what Tech would even have to get up to make a serious bid to be in the upper echelon. I wonder what it would be. I mean, you're probably looking at, let's just be smart about it. What do you think? Carolina has to be $20 million at least. What do you say? Duke? I mean, this is how ridiculous this has gotten that we're having this conversation. And I don't know how much money Tech would have to be able to put into it. They're putting just about every percentage of those dollars in football and men's basketball. So that's the good part of it. That's the good part of it. But I don't know. I don't know what it would take. So I'll ask you guys in chat, what do you think? How much do you think it would take? They didn't have much at all until this last year. And we talk about evaluation. Let's just say it the way it is. Abadalis hasn't been worth the investment. He just hasn't. Disappeared again Saturday, Charlottesville. 11 million, you think, Brandon? About 11 million just to be on par? And that would, go ahead and exclude the outliers of Duke and Carolina and put Tech up there with like the Wake Forests or the NC States or the Louisvilles. That's probably a sound guess. I was going to guess like somewhere around 15, 12 to 15. But who knows? I mean, who knows what it's going to look like next year? It's going to keep going up. It's like everything else. We want to thank the NRV Super Bowl. Their quality keeps going up. They've been part of the community for 25 years. 540-382-5525. Reserve your lane now. Yeah, Wilson got about almost $5 million. Because I was down there with Carolina, and we were talking to boosters, and they were telling us what he was making. The Trimble kid's making over $2 million. Lawson's Mobile Home Supply since 1987, 300 North Franklin Street in Christiansburg. Give James a call, 540-381-8011. Sundown Electric. We want to thank them for joining as our latest sponsor last week. Thanks to Jeff Smith and all the folks at Sundown. You can go to their website, read the reviews. Very honest business, and we appreciate their support. They're the best. Thanks to all those folks. The Ready Set Fund, ReadySetFund.com. We want to thank Bob Chris. Check out their website. BOBCRST11 at Gmail. Text message series that help you or your organization, doesn't matter what it is, raise money. And they do it better than everybody. Professional Door Incorporated. I want to thank Travis Williams. And you talk about a business that's just exploded now. Travis and his folks have taken it to new levels. And we appreciate their support. Right across from New River Community College, sponsor of our text line, which never, and I mean never stops going. Feels like the text line is always popping. National Bank, member FDIC, thanks to Larry Ramsey and Company. I'm refinancing things now, working with them almost daily. And they have been wonderful to work with. Appreciate them and their support of the program. The attorney Ryan Pryor, BDST fan question of the week. 701 West Main Street in Radford, Trust and Estate Planning. We put it out there. How many games does Tech need to win in the ACC tournament to get to the big show? Little River Heating and Air, 1095 Radford Street in Christiansburg, 540-553-2971. Give Charles Lee a call. Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment. Stacey Compton will be on later in the week. We're going to talk more about the IHRA partnership, thanks to Jonathan Sweet and Company. He was going to be on today, but he had a doctor's appointment, and he did not want to rush it, which I really appreciate. McClellan Chiropractic, thanks to Mark Hunley over off Walters Drive, 155 Walters Drive over in Christiansburg. Chiropractic genius. I can't wait to go over there and get my back shifted. And Family Fencing, sponsor of our studios. We want to thank them for all of their support. Jason Green and Company, they were the first sponsor of the new brand of the show here on YouTube. Free quotes, any type of materials you can think of, commercial, residential, and that's a business that I know is taking off. You got good people behind it. Good people behind it. So we thank them for their support and all of our sponsors. We could use some more sponsors here in the program. Brandon says, yeah, that'll get them closer. Football is the focus. Yeah, football's got to be good before everything else. Football's going to get all the attention. And, that's just the way it works. Every school's that way. But those two sports will get just about all the money. Not all of it, but just about all of it. Women's basketball probably definitely get the next most. Now, I don't know what you do with stick and ball. I mean, I think softball's off to its best start ever, but it loses a lot of money every year. It loses millions. I mean, what makes sense as an investment? I mean, and I think that's what you're faced with now at these schools. Tebow says, Tech not making the tournament, only way is winning the ACC, accept it and move on. Yeah, well, it might be. I think what happens, Tebow, is we kind of realize that. And then you see Lenardi, who's all over the place with Tech. They're either in the last four out, first four out, they get moved up. People post, oh, they got moved. I mean, I don't understand how you can lose a game and get moved up. Somebody had a great response. Hey, Tech only needs to lose 2 more games, and they're a cinch to make the field. Yeah, it's just the whole Lenardi thing is annoying. It's just kudos to him. He's become a very rich man because of it, but yeah, a little weird vibe going on there. It does feel like at the very least 3 wins in the tournament would be what they have to do. And then you don't know what's going to happen in the other power leagues. That's the other thing. Where does this money come from? The reserve, I guess. Castle's been half full all year. Yep. Castle needs renovations horribly, right? So, yeah, I don't know about that, Prometheus. I don't know if they look at it as a close loss. I mean, I don't know. I've never heard them ever speak to it. I don't know. I know the only thing I've ever heard along those lines is if a team is shorthanded and they're playing competitive games, that they'll get in there and talk about that. David Teal, if we get him on Wednesday, he sat in on a few years ago. David Teal actually got to sit in on a committee. He was invited to sit in on how the NCAA committee, when they were making their selections. So we'll see what he says about that. Remind me, Prometheus. That'd be a good question. Yeah, I don't know. And wait, I don't know. I mean, you have the reserve. I believe from just seeing things over the last several weeks, I believe there's more money at these schools than they let on. Yeah, I don't think quality losses comes into play. That's my whole thing. I've never heard that as being hey, they only got beat by because they needed to win that game, and they didn't. They played them close. It wasn't close for the first half, but in the second half, they played them, came back and gave themselves a chance. Yeah, Tebow, I think a lot of people would, but I don't think that's going to happen. Bobcats had a great season, Robert. They did. They were really good in FCS. Really good. They're going to have some guys get drafted, aren't they? They're going to get some guys on the NFL rosters. It's a nice campus. Nice campus. I think the AD at JMU would like to come home, but since it's set up to where the AD is not going to have anything to say with football, that's not very enticing to a football guy. That's just the way it rolls. And he's pretty much said that here on the show, right? He's a football AD. And you come to Virginia Tech now as an AD, you pretty much, with the coach who's there, you got no influence at all over football. None. It's hard to go back now, right? You've told the current AD that he's not involved with it. I don't know. That's something that's not talked about enough yet because we're just getting started with James Franklin and all this, but that's a strange precedent that Tech has set going forward. What do you think? You're basically telling the AD, of course, he wasn't going to have any real say over the hire. And nothing just decided with the most important program you have is going to come through you other than when you're told to make a statement. I mean, James Franklin's running the show. I think that makes it difficult for, and you're right, he would crush it. He's going to be a superstar somewhere, Matt Roan, in a power league and megastar. But I don't think that's a real attractive job right now in Blacksburg, if they ever decide to go that route. And it's clear at this point they're not going to do anything with Whit Babcock. He's going to have to retire. So you don't know when that would even be. I mean, they've made that abundantly clear that they're not going to fire him. So then he has to say he doesn't want to be there anymore. And then you'd have to go on, and anybody who'd come interview, well, here's what we've set up with football. And if you're a competitive and you're a guy who, I mean, how do you attract an AD to come into a place where the only one program really matters? It's the most important program. It's the program that completely changed the whole community. How do you get somebody to be on board with that? You too, Robert. You have a wonderful day. Oh, you're going to go out with your horse for a long day of riding. Oh, man, I envy you, Robert. That's awesome, man. Enjoy. That is cool. The trails of Montana with all that scenery, man, that's some zen. Have fun, brother. Thanks for chiming in. Good to hear from you, man. Don't be a stranger. Give our best to all the people in that wonderful place. That's awesome. Guys, Robert's going to have a better day than we're going to have. He's hopping on his horse. That's cool. That's cool. But the environment can change over there. It can. But I think it's very difficult to try to say, hey, we're going to bring him over. Bring this guy over, right? I don't know. But y'all tell me what you think. I mean, you think about everywhere Matt Roan has gone, he's turned around the football programs. Now, JMU was already in a good spot, but he was able to maintain it. Came in with Bob Chesney. They took it to another level. You too, Robert. That's awesome. I'll be imagining Robert out there all day, when I have like something that hits me at work and I'm just grabbing my head going, oh, well, at least Robert's having a good day. But everywhere Matt's gone, he has centered it around football. If you come to Tech, you got no say. So that's going to be a tough thing unless that just changes back around, in my opinion. Very, very Very tough. Yeah, very tough. But I'm gonna go to answer my own BDST fan question of the week. I'm gonna go with 3. The Tech needs to win 3 games in the tournament. What do you think? 3? I'm gonna go with 3. Matchups are okay. What, Wake, Clemson, potentially. We've already beaten them both. And we know they have good players. Third game would be Carolina, right? Right. Who, by the way, made the announcement, in case you missed it, Caleb Wilson's going to conveniently have finger surgery and be out for the year. So I'm going to remind Marva that I told her this. What? You were here for the conversations 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago when he got hurt. He would never play at Carolina again. Remember? She scoffed. Do I believe that he's going to have surgery? Maybe. I don't know. Do I believe that's what's keeping him out? No. I'm pretty sure that once he got hurt, his representatives know he's going to be an absolute 100% lottery top 3 pick. Let's go ahead and make sure you get 100% rehabilitated so we don't endanger that. Oh, by the way, he's going to have pinky surgery. Palm Coast is your second choice. By the way, I have a lever action 30-30. All I need is a horse and a saddle, and it'd be cool too. You're already cool, Morris. You're already hurt. I mean, you're already not hurt. You're already cool. You don't need a horse. Now that would be cool if you're like on a horse on the beaches of the Palm Coast. You're not just cool. You're taking it like Morris to a level that, I mean, everybody would be canceling their current insurance and going to Dolphin Insurance because they just see you out there on the horse. Just on the edge where the water's meeting the sand, and there you are. Absolutely. And then you and Robert could FaceTime while you're each on your horse. I've mounted my valiant steed. I think I'll check in with Robert and see how he's doing there in the wilderness of Montana. You know what you'd look like, Morris? You'd look like Charlton Heston, like in the Planet of the Apes, when he's on the beach on the horse, right before they see the Statue of Liberty. You blew it up! That's how I envision you with your loincloth out there. You mentioned he had a rifle too. Hey, you know what, Prometheus? If we could get down there, do the show bash there at the Palm Coast, absolutely. Absolutely. You got some horse trading to do. Sid, Coach Elmassian says, yes. Todd Grantham going to join us coming up here. I'll ask him if he thinks this is anything positive going to come out of this with the government intervention in college athletics. See what he has to say. A different Robert, 100% on the text line. Very proud of the Radford women last night. That was a heck of a basketball game. It was. They fell 4 points short. Joy Williams, we had her on the show. Wrong. I know that's what they're saying, Rodney, but there's a lot of PR out of Chapel Hill. Color me skeptical. what's reported and what's truth is always nowadays. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what comes out of that. I believe that the surgery he's having on his hand was because it's something else he wanted to get fixed before he gets ready for the draft. That's my very jaded assessment about the whole thing. Yeah. Mike McGuire did a great job with our women's team. Absolutely. And you guys met Joy already. She was great. 30 points last night. Best player on the floor. And she had a shot on an offensive rebound to hit a three to tie the game to send it to overtime. And boom. Well, I'm sure he had the surgery, Rodney. I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying seems a little funny. A little funny. That was kind of an oh, by the way announcement. Oh, by the way, in case you didn't know, he's not playing. Joining us now on the program, he's always playing. He's ready to play. It's Todd Grantham, the defensive coordinator for the UAB Blazers. What's going on, man?
What's up, bud? How you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right. How are you? It's warm,
good,
so it's 70 degrees today. So
that's awesome. Yeah, it's supposed to. I'm at my lake house. We're on spring break this week, so I'm gonna do a little fishing and all that kind of stuff. And
good for you.
Yeah, this is supposed to be the most exciting month coming up in sports, man, with college basketball and everything starting this week. You know, all the tournaments. You know, I tell you what's bad about it though is back when we were in school. You know, the ACC tournament always started on that Thursday, and I always skipped Thursday. Never went because I always watched I think it was like the 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock game.
Absolutely.
You know, you always had to miss that day. Well, I looked at it last night. Like they start on Tuesday now. Like shit, you'd miss a whole week. I mean, they play, you know, starting on Tuesday all the way up until Sunday. So you wouldn't be able to do that nowadays. But that was the deal back then is. With ACC basketball, you'd be sick on that Thursday so you could watch the games and everything. So that was a lot of fun.
But they're going to ruin it next year, Coach, right? Because of the money. They're going to expand it. And I don't know what those early days will look like now, right? Who knows?
I mean, they're starting on Tuesday. They can't start much earlier. I mean,
I know, right?
You know what I'm saying? So unless they start playing double headers. So, yeah, so I've been dealing with that. And of course, you know, I still got a lot of friends back in the New River Valley area. So I got some group chat, you know, group text guys. I got one with a Hokie fan and a Wolfpack fan, and one of my buddies that's a Hokie fan is baseball, basketball. He's struggling right now. So anyway, it's fun listening to the sorrows of what's happening right now. You know, I feel for the fan. I don't know if I could do that or not. I mean, kind of gut wrenching, man.
How much do you worry now as a staff? Like I know basketball, when they have to send players away, like for Christmas break for basketball, the coaches are always like, how are they going to come back? Did they eat too much? Did they get out of shape? Did they do something wrong?
You know, that's always the thing is and we've actually met on that is like, you know, you build yourself up, and it takes a lot of time to build yourself up from a prestige perception standpoint of who you are. But you can tear that shit down really quick, you know, with decisions you make. And you just got to educate guys, you know, from that perspective and kind of show them examples of past people that were moving up and then all of a sudden a bad choice or bad decision, because it's all about education of young people and just, you know, how they kind of ruined their career from that standpoint. As far as the physical thing of it, you know, you give them a little bit of workout, but it's okay to take a little rest every now and then. You know, we'll come back. We just finished our first phase with lifting and a limited amount of football. And then we'll start a week from Wednesday with our second phase, which is spring practice. And, you know, they'll come in on Sunday night of next week. And basically we'll have Monday, Tuesday to kind of get going again. And then we'll start spring practice on Wednesday. So there'll be a little bit of a drop off, but sometimes that's okay, you know, from that standpoint.
So I got to ask you, people want me to ask you, of course, we know there were a lot of people around college athletics that met with the government. Do you think anything positive is going to happen out of this at all in the long run?
Well, I think that because they're paying attention to it, I mean, something's going to happen. I think the biggest issue is like once, let's say they try an injunction or they try whatever, well, somebody's going to find a lawyer and sue and try to get it changed. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're going to have that fight with it. So I think it's going to be an ongoing process for a little bit. It'd be great to be back. I mean, sometimes things are good the way they were. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have to adjust them. I think the biggest thing is the pay for play. I mean, it's amazing to me. Like, I remember when first name, image, and likeness came out, and the concept of it was, that if, a car dealership or a business wanted your rights, that you had the ability to advertise their product and earn money. That was really it. And really what it's turned into is basically you can now legally funnel money to players. I mean, that's Urban Meyer basically said that at the meeting they had as far as with pay for play. So, and I think they just got to get some guardrails on it and some rules from a salary structure standpoint, because if they don't, all the other sports are going to suffer, because like you have to have football. I mean, if you have a football program, it has to be good. It has to be a moneymaker. And if it is a moneymaker, it helps all the other sports, which I think there should be as many Olympic sports, men's and women's sports. I think it's great for, young people. Yeah. And I think that's a great thing. And when the sport's healthy, it's good. Now people are going to say, well, look at the ratings from the championship game, which is true, but that just tells you the popularity of the sport. I think the biggest issue is the amount of money being lost, to try to fund the teams. I mean, that's eventually what's going to happen is people are going to run out of money, because once the collective people, decide they're not going to donate quite as much, that cap number is going to change for people. So it's not sustainable the way it is right now. I think guys should get paid. I think it's a real simple process. It's like real simple. Like, this is what we make off TV. This is how much you can spend relative to that. And this is how much you can give your players. And that's it. And yeah. I mean, it's not real complicated. That's basically what the NFL does. That's what the NBA does. That's what it's all based upon revenue share. So basically, if you did that, you would be fine. And then that gives you some guidance from a standpoint of knowing, well, I have to spend this amount of money each year on my team. But it also changes the game, because nowadays people just buy players. Like they can just go, now we can't, but people can just go buy players like to solidify a need. Whereas in the pro football, you got to balance your budget. You got to figure out where you want to spend your money to make your team. And that changes dramatically how you perceive players and the value of players, and that would change the game completely. And really the thought process of some of the schools right now would be out the door, because they would be more on a salaried structure, and they'd have to budget their money relative to the players that they want to keep. And I think the other thing is having a way that you can contractually, lock players in, you know what I'm saying? Because like, it's hard to build a team knowing that every year, like, they're going to change. Yeah. I mean, that's hard. And if you know that, hey, I got this guy for 2 years, 3 years, well, then I can work on another position, and you can build a team, which gives you a chance to put a good product on the field and build it the right way. With the way it is right now, that's not sustainable. And that's, to be honest with you, one of the reasons Coach Saban got out of it when he did, because Nick's pretty good at foreseeing the future for what things are going to look like. And, along with some other, older type coaches, he saw what was coming, and, he was good. And they had just come off of, playing Michigan in the playoffs and doing really well in the SEC. And, his whole thing is he never wanted to bring the program down. Like, when Bobby Bowden was at Florida State, that program kind of went down at the end of his career, for various reasons, but it wasn't the same as it was when he was, hot and they were in their prime, and he never wanted to bring it down like that. And he wanted to kind of leave maybe a year too early as opposed to a year too late. And with the way things were going, he kind of felt like that was the right thing to do. So, I think because it's got attention, you hope it happens. It's just what's going to happen though is as soon as they make a legislative law or something with Congress, well, then somebody's going to go to a lawyer and they're going to sue and see what happens. So that'll be the next step.
Well, I think what you say makes the most sense. And that's basically why the NFL salary cap increases, right? It's because of added television money. That's what
That's
they,
right.
right?
And
So,
and here's the thing with it is like, for example, even with pro college football now, with the national championship game being as high as it is, from a rating standpoint, college football would go up, because what'll happen is you'll get more teams, because with a salary cap, you're going to have more teams like Ole Miss that make the playoffs every year, because that's what the NFL is about. I mean, back when it was 12 teams and it bumped up a couple more. So now they want that playoff bracket in the NFL. They want that to change every year. They don't want the same team to dominate every year. They want the team that was, 4-13 to go, 10-7, and then they make the playoffs this year. I mean, that's what they want. They want to cycle it. Everything in pro football is there to cycle the next program or the next organization up. Meaning, first of all, the better you do this year, the harder your schedule is next year. The lower you draft, meaning in theory, you don't get a chance to get the best player. Now that doesn't work that way, but that's the theory of it. And then with your cap number, as everybody has the same cap number. In other words, like right now, you don't have the same cap number. Even like, for example, I saw you talking about Virginia Tech and their basketball. Well, they don't have the same cap number. I mean, like, make everybody have the same cap number, and then coaching matters a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Now, coaching still matters from the standpoint of you got to develop players and you got to do those things. But once you say, hey, whatever the number is, 15 million, 10 million, then that's the number and that's the most you can spend. So then what happens is the guy that's sitting, or maybe that, like for us, for example, there will be teams that will take a guy for, say, $250,000 that's going to be maybe a backup. Okay, maybe. Whereas for us, he would be probably a starter, or at least competing for a starting spot. Well, those guys would be available, because I'm not sure you would spend that kind of money on that amount of snaps. Meaning, like, if you look at it and you say, all right, here's our salary structure. Well, this is how much I'm going to spend on a player. Well, how many snaps are you going to play in the game? In other words, is he a 2-down player? Does he play just third down? Does he play all 3 downs? Does he play special teams? I mean, how many snaps am I getting out of the guy? And you do a snap count like in pro football. And we did this with Nick and even with Coach Mullen when I was with him, is, we would get a weekly deal of how many snaps a guy played in the game. And you would look at, okay, how many snaps he play on offense, how many snaps he play on defense, and how many snaps he played on special teams. And then what you're trying to look at is who are you not valuing from a standpoint of how do we get maybe a guy more reps, or is a guy taking too many reps, because you're trying to increase production. And you would look at that. So when I was in pro football, you would do it the same way, from the standpoint of how do we try to increase this guy's reps to make our team a little more balanced, from a rep standpoint. So, that we still do that stuff, but that would kind of figure in the salary structure now if you did it that way, from that standpoint.
I like that. Another question here on the text line for you, Coach, from David said, how do programs like UAB or even the bigger schools, how do they even go about trying to set recruiting guardrails for the next? You hear all this all the time. Hey, they're out recruiting. How can you go out and recruit? You don't know what your roster is going to look like. It's going to take money for recruits anyway.
Yeah.
It's not like, how has it changed with everything? How do you go about planning for the future recruiting?
Yeah. So the way, I can't answer for everybody, but the way that I would do it, and I've done it with Coach Saban, is you kind of look at your roster and you have a certain number of guys at each position. Okay. Well, you would like to develop at least the bottom part of that position from the high school. That's just like the draft. You'd like to be able to, to develop those guys, because in essence, those guys aren't costing as much as, say, if you go in the portal, then you're going to be competing for a ready-made guy. That's going to be more expensive. Okay. So when you look at the high school guys, you do want to recruit those guys. You're looking for guys that can come in and within 2 years, you feel like they can compete for you. I don't expect the guy to come in and compete immediately. It'd be great if he can, But once we get him in our weight program, we work with the guy for a spring and another year, like he can come in and compete. So then what measurables does the guy have? So I think that's really what everybody's kind of doing per se, is trying to find those kind of guys and then use the roster or the transfer portal as a supplement. Now, what happens is what you said, because of the ability for players to leave, you end up with someone who, let's say, is playing and they're doing well. Well, they want to make more money and they go in the portal. So you're going to have to replace that guy. So I think you got to have a vision for how do you want to recruit high school guys from a standpoint of which of these guys can come in and help me within 2 years to help our program. So I think you got to build it that way. And then from the other standpoint of it is what guys do I need to go get right now? Because I got to win now. And that's just a fact, because you have to win now. So I think it's a balance of both. But I do think that, you do got to find some high school guys, because, for example, like defensive backs, like if, let's say you're taking 11 to 13 defensive backs, whatever your number is. I mean, you can't get 13 guys out of the portal. I mean, that's just not sustainable every year. So what you've got to do is be able to go find some guys that you can develop, from that standpoint, which helps manage your roster and your numbers. So that's kind of the route you got to do. And here's what I think's happening too is the high school guys are kind of jumping on offers right now because they're scared of the portal. So then you got to be diligent in your recruiting, because they're seeing or they're hearing, which it's rightfully so, that less opportunities for high school people, right now. So when you do offer a guy, you got to have some teeth to it, because you could get a guy, from that standpoint. And you got to make sure that you balance out your roster with guys you feel you can develop within 2 years to play. And then you got to have guys that can help, win right now.
Saw where a high school quarterback had committed. He'd been committed, then all of a sudden he left yesterday. I can't remember what school it was. You may have seen that too. I don't know. He was a highly recruited kid. I don't know how much he was going to be involved in it. I'm guessing he got poached by somebody else, right? Because who knows? But I asked because, you got the Noons kid for Tech that everybody likes a whole lot. Coming in, he's going to be part of the spring. But he's got two guys ahead of him and have lots of eligibility ahead of him. So Tech knows they'd have to try to nurture him and keep him involved for probably 2 years, maybe 3 years. That's not going to happen. He's not just going to sit here, because another school is going to say, you can come play for us, or you're going to make more money.
Correct. I mean, well, the guys go in the portal for two reasons: one, playing time, and two, money. Okay. So it may not even be the money. It may be my ability to go find a place to play so I can earn more money. You got that aspect of it too. So I think it's real hard. The quarterback is obviously the most publicized position that people look at. And it's hard to keep, multiple quality quarterbacks on your roster because of what you just said. I mean, they see the reps, they know who's going with the first team, they know how that's shaken out, and they want to play. So what happens is they don't feel like they're going to get a play. So they go to the portal. Now, what's interesting about that now is you don't have that spring portal per se, so we'll just have to see how that translates moving forward, if anybody's going to challenge that, as we move through the spring. So that'll be something to keep your eye on. But it's hard to keep more than two quarterbacks that you think are quality quarterbacks on your roster, just from a playing time perspective, because it's like anything. There's a need for quality quarterback play at whatever level you are: National Football League, college football, high school. And if you feel like you have the ability, but you're not getting the reps, you're going to want to go to, you want to go to the portal and find an opportunity for yourself.
Will employment contracts be the only thing to save this? Do you think, like you're saying, like, is that the only thing we can see? Treat them like employees? Is that all we've got in terms of hope going forward?
So I think if you went that way, if you go that route with it, it'll be a longer drawn out process, because then you got to say, all right, what's the representation? Now you have collective bargaining. Okay. Then who's the NFLPA? In other words, the NFL has a Players Association rep, and the owners work with the NFLPA to set the rules for, workouts, for practicing, for, length of games. That's the biggest thing like now in the National Football League is all the owners want the 18th game so they can all play international to create more money. And the players don't want to play an 18th game. So that's like, there's going to be concessions to that. And, like, for example, in the National Football League, the owners wanted the 17th game. So really what they gave them was lack of or less practice time, less commitment, like in the off season. Like in the pro football right now, guys start much later in the process and do much less in the off season than we did. And that was basically the owners agreeing to shorten that time window to get the 17th game. So, that whole process works. So if you did go the route with their employees, then you're going to bring in a bunch more of representation type things. Now it is structurally easier from the standpoint of, all right, here are the rules, here's what we set. That part of it's good, but you're going to have some other doors open that you've got to, you got to fix. So that's why it hasn't been fixed yet. It's not an easy answer relative to the way we're set up structurally, from the standpoint of, okay, well, this state says this state says that. There's all these state legislative laws. I mean, it really needs to be done the best way. The way they're trying to do it right now is there's legislation that comes down that protects the NCAA from being sued. And this is what we're going to do. This is how much you can get paid. These are the transfer rules. And that's the way we're going to go about it. So that's probably the easiest thing to get through, because once you make them employees, you're going to open up a few other things that probably aren't on the docket right now as far as how they would manage it.
Mark says, hey, ask Coach. I know he's on vacation this week, but how much time will he spend thinking about his defense instead of actually enjoying his time off?
Yeah, it's funny, man. I figured it up on my drive to my lake house. Like I've worked 62 straight days. I started like January 5th, and I've worked basically 62 straight days. Not every day a full day, but basically getting after it. And I still got some things to do. Normally I go on a trip. My wife and I, last year we went to the bungalows in Miami. I don't know if anybody's ever been there, but that's like an awesome place. Not going to do that this year. Going to hang out here. I enjoy my lake house, so we'll do that. And I still got some things to do. But the thing about spring football is it's always about the fundamentals. As far as I think the one thing we've got to really work on is how we play run blocks, how we strike blocks, how we generate power, how we play with our hands. And that's at all positions, not just the D line. So what I'll end up doing is I've kind of got a system for how you develop that. So I'll look at that and try to see how we need to install that. And then the other thing is just looking at the players from a standpoint of, you got a good feel for them. They've been here since January. And even as soon as I get off here, I'll start thinking about position flexibility with guys from the standpoint of, okay, this is our best 11. Okay, who goes where if somebody gets hurt, or where do we need to create a little more depth and those kind of things. So really it's about this time of year. It's about fundamentals, teaching guys how to play blocks, obviously teaching guys how to cover. And then it's, how do I create position flexibility within the guys that I have to get my best 11, meaning, hey, this nickel plays safety, or this defensive end can play defensive tackle, or this outside backer can play defensive end, to give me, enough depth as you go through the deal. So that's honestly, this second phase is what I'm looking at and thinking about. And, you got to figure out how you get your best 11 on the field. So that'll be a part of the process this week as we, go through the whole deal.
There you go, Mark. He will be working. He will be working. But at least you got the lake and you got the lake house. So you can
yeah, man. I love fishing. Fishing is, of course, Elmo knows that. Fishing, man, I love that. I got a lake, and I built my own pond with a buddy of mine. It's an 18-acre pond that is stocked with fish and or bass and bluegill and crappie. So anyway, I'll mess around with that a little bit. That's a lot of fun. And I'll probably play a little bit of golf every now and then. Although a good day of fishing is much better than a good day of golfing, in my opinion. So
I think you're exactly right. Yeah,
you're right. The problem as a golfer is you always think you can do better. But in reality, you're probably lucky to get what you got. Whereas, in fishing, it's just a little bit more relaxing from that perspective. So if I had to choose, I'll definitely take the fishing over the golfing any day of the week.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. Well, enjoy your week, man. I know you've earned it. And I knew you'd be working. I knew the answer to that question, but I was just passing along. I knew you did stuff, so.
Yeah, always got to be figuring out something, man. It's always like the next thing. You know what I mean? It's like, what's next? Or, hey, this guy's pretty good. How do I get this guy more snaps? And, and we've really been looking at that. And then you kind of learn about guys too, from the standpoint of, we've given them an iPad, which basically allows them to go on our system and they can watch video of, say, cut-ups of defensive plays or pressures we put in. They can watch those. They can watch techniques. I mean, they can watch their techniques. They can watch anything they want to watch. So a part of that is usage. So anyway, I've been educating guys on the proper, amount of time that you need to spend on that, because if I get a thing every week for how much a guy's been on his iPad. Okay. So if I see a guy's been on his iPad, an hour a day, like, I got to figure out how to get this guy on the field, right? Because it means something to this guy. I'm saying an hour extra. And if I'm turning it on or looking at that sheet and a guy has not turned his iPad on, well, we got to fix that, right? So we got to figure out and educate him. The reason that we have that iPad is to allow you to make more plays and become, a better player. And so anyway, that's part of the process too. So anyway, that's been going on, been enjoying it. So we just got to continue to work hard and develop. And this second phase will be fun from a standpoint if we actually get on the field and actually get to do football stuff. We actually get to guys and tackle guys and, do that kind of thing. So that part of it would be fun.
That's cool. And that'll reveal more about what you already think about this roster one way or the other too. That's what's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I mean, you get a false sense of things in walkthroughs, and really what you're doing is you're just looking at their ability to understand things, be in the right position. But now the next phase is how do I do it? Knowing what to do is one thing, but then how to do it is another phase. And that's where we got to work right now, is to understand how to do it and the right way to do it. So that's what we're going to work on starting on Wednesday of next week.
Awesome. Well, very cool. I know one thing, you're making a lot of UAB football fans around here. I hear from them all the time. That's going to be like their secondary team on Saturday to watch the sport.
Awesome. Cool. I'm looking forward to it, man. That's great.
Well, enjoy your week, man. And thanks for everything as always. We'll talk to you, I guess, next week.
No problem. You guys take care. Have a great week. See you.
All right, brother. Have fun on the pond. I know you will.
Thank you, man. See you.
Good stuff from Todd Grantham. Thanks for the questions. That's great. That's great. Yeah, Coach doesn't mind answering those at all. Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. Yeah, you get a lot revealed one way or the other coming up, and that's the whole thing about it. What you've thought is either going to be enhanced or what you thought might be superseded by other things. And I just want to say this, you know, Rodney, is being facetious about, not really, about Caleb Wilson. I just know I've lived this, so this is why I'm always jaded. Earlier, I won't mention names, in my Radford career, I had a head coach bring me into his office, and we had a kid who we knew was out for the year or going to be out for an extended period of time. And he wanted me to be involved in the PR part of letting people know that he could be back any day. Well, I would see the kid daily, and he had his hand in a cast. And I was just thinking, well, why don't we just come out and why don't we just say he's done? Why was that? It just depends on the coach. Just depends on what they try to get across. I'm just saying. And that was a while back. I didn't really do it. I just kind of nodded in the meeting like, oh, okay, I see. Well, I don't know how long all that lasts, but fortunately nobody really ever came up to me, and I didn't go out of my way to create a fib or just a blatant lie. I didn't feel right about that, so I didn't do it. I didn't do it. But I just know how some of these coaches operate and how some of these programs operate. I'm not saying Carolina's like that, but I do know with everything going on with the kind of injury Wilson had and people start getting in their heads about the future and about what's the point of going back and playing a couple games at Carolina in the NCAA tournament when you could really cause some damage and all of a sudden your stock, and the reason I'm so skeptical about it all is because everything is all about money and where it's going and what's going to affect the long-term money-making ability. I'm sorry. It's just where I'm at with all this. And that's the answer, unfortunately, to every question. It's not right, but that's just the way it works, unfortunately. So good show today. Good stuff. Thanks to Coach Elmo and thanks to Todd. Don't forget, we'll have Stacey Compton on again later in the week. He had to reschedule because he had a doctor appointment. You're going to have some bids come out tonight. SoCon, I think it's ETSU and Furman tonight. There'll be some other leagues. I know Queens, by the way, just their 4th year Division I. They won their tournament yesterday. Queens is going to the NCAA tournament, which is pretty cool. There's always going to be the Cinderella, and this is when this tournament starts to get so much fun and so interesting. High Point going from our league yesterday and also on the women's side. But again, congrats to Mike McGuire and his ladies. What a great season they had. And Joy Williams has just been, you ready for this pun? A joy to watch and get to know over the last couple of years. She is a terrific young woman, first and foremost, and she's a really good basketball player. But great fight last night, even though they fell 4 points short. Please subscribe and like and share the channel. Don't forget, we've now added shorts, which are short videos, clips. I'll be doing that after every show going forward. Thanks for watching, everybody. Enjoy your Monday, and we'll see you tomorrow. As Tebow mentioned earlier, it's NFL free agency. It could be a frenzy starting today. We'll see. I know Tua has been officially released from Miami. He's going to have a post-June 1st designation, but that's the first big news to come down. Tua is now on the free agent market. All right. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.